Well, hello there and welcome to the kitchen of the dollhouse for another reading and quasi-comprehensive commentary on The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and Joost Elfers for January 2nd, the day of self-requirement. And here at the top of the page is a visual representational image of the day of self-requirement. So we have us an image of, what could it be? Boom, it looks like a berry bough held together by a little bit of a belt there at the bottom. Now, is that a adequate visual representation of the day of self-requirement? Well, who's to say? Maybe we'll make some kind of connotation for as much as we get on with the read. But that being said, visual representation, image aside, not altogether all too important in the scheme of things. And what are the scheme of things? Well, it's January 2nd, so ostensibly it's somebody's birthday. And that's why you're here. And so what's important is me wishing you a happy birthday. That's right. Down at the foundation, that's what we're here for, to wish you a happy birthday. Now, maybe this video finds you late, I don't know, days, weeks, months, whatever the case may be. But if it is the case, I just want to say, I hope you had a happy birthday in that instance. But, that being said, there are often folks who join us randomly or more ideally to celebrate the January 2nd birthday. And in that case, I just want to say, hello, welcome, and I hope you enjoy yourself. Now, before I kick off the read directly, something I like to do around these here parts, and that's roll some dice. That's right, this is the DykASSt A Birthday broadcast, so I like to live up to the namesake, but I do so more importantly for synchronicity's sake. And I rolled us some doubles. That's right, a 6 and a 6 for a 12. Now, what's synchronicity? You're probably wondering. Well, folks, not all too often, folks will get out there in the world and they have the blinders on as they go about their everyday goings on, right? Going off to work on the commute, going out running errands. We're just very singular of focus as we go after those particular tasks. And so I've heard it said the universe, or the powers that be, if you like, will often put things in our path to help us manifest our goals or aspirations. But when we get those blinders on, hey, we're not always apt to see those things, if we're even open to as much. And so this is a little bit of an exercise to help us take those blinders off, ostensibly with something we can't mistake as a universal sign to help us go some such way, right? That's right, your daily numbers, something we hopefully can't mistake. You're a 6 and you're 6 for a 12. Now, it doesn't mean you have to go with the numbers I rolled for you. The intention is there, but, it probably is ideal you take your own set of dice. So you can ascribe directional values to number sets as well as time limits with which to go in those directions. But once you've established all that, your daily numbers, your directional value, your time limits, set off from some place that, that you're drawn to. Maybe the town square, and get your first directional value time limit going. And here's the important thing. Get those blinders off. You want to start soaking things up like a sponge. You never know where the day might take you or what might present in your path. Be it, like we see here at the top of the page, berry boughs, maybe belts. I don't know. You might start to see belts wrapped around telephone poles, or bike locks or something like that, or bike stands rather. I don't know, or maybe just berry bushes. You keep passing berry bushes. I would take that as a sign to say you're on the right path, all right? But it could present as anything, so stay eagle-eyed for just anything that starts presenting itself. That said, maybe you get to the end of your first time value and you're not seeing anything. Well, take some time, compose yourself, look around, see what might present, or maybe just take in your environment. Maybe you notice you're on old 66th Avenue because you're at a cross street or something. I would take that again as another sign you're on the right path, all right? So once again, roll yourself another time value, another directional value, see where you're taking yourself. Who's to say, maybe at the end of that new directional time value, you stop in front of a fruit cart and maybe they have berries on sale. Hey, there you go, your berry bough sign there. Maybe the person asks you what you're up to today. You know what? Be forthright and transparent with this stuff. It may seem a little embarrassing, but what's interesting is a lot of other people, they like to kind of get these interesting, magical things incorporated into their life too. So maybe show them this video, show them your dice. They ask you if you're in the mood for some berries, and you're like, not really. And they go, you know what? I want to get after my day too. I want some magic in my life also. Maybe they close up the fruit stand and join you. It's not outside the realm of possibility. Hey, you know what? You might even find that it's this person's birthday also, all right? Just synchronicity things start coming into play when you put yourself out there into the universe. That said, maybe they do close up shop there for the day and they go, okay, where are we going next? And so what's interesting about this is it's said that with more people going after the same goal, it actually will manifest more and better results. That's right. So that's it. Get out there again. Maybe see, taste, touch, feel, smell a little bit of the magic. You know, maybe your friend brings some berries along. Maybe he just happens to put on a tighter belt. I don't know. It's just things for you to take in passing, see what you see. And you know what? It's your birthday. You should be out there trying to find things that are fun to do. All right. And if I can wish anything for you on your birthday, it's that you get out there, see a little magic. All right, I think you get the idea for synchronicity, things coming into play, coincidences if you like, stack them up, see what you see. Now let's get on with the birthday read. All right, your month is January, your day is the 2nd, your sign is 11 to 13 degrees Capricorn of the Capricorn I period specifically. Last day of it, I believe. Yes, it is, the last day of the Capricorn I. And your quality and element is Cardinal Earth. All right, January 2nd, the day of self-requirement. The serious individuals born on January 2 put tremendous demands on themselves. Basically because they have extremely high standards, great drive, and a certain healthy degree of insecurity as to their real worth. They feel that they have to prove that they can do it. Again and again, they take on killing responsibilities or force themselves to scale seemingly impossible heights. Sometimes under very tight deadlines. Putting themselves under this kind of pressure seems to agree with them, even when little in the way of external standards are imposed on them. January 2 people may refuse to allow themselves an easy pace. It could well be said workaholics and obsessive-compulsive personalities are born on this day. Even more temperamentally relaxed January 2 people can often be found taking on heavy responsibilities, such as a large family, the upkeep of more than one house or property, or ambitious long-term projects at work. And January 2 people do not have to work alone. They can make excellent team members who year after year discharge their duties faithfully to the letter. Retirement may not suit them well, however, if it means time on their hands. On the other side, January 2 people are admirably suited for creative work or self-employment, which requires them setting up their own schedule and making their own plans. Rather than truly innovative, most born on January 2 are perfectionistic craftspeople who produce the best products or services they can. And although highly imaginative, they do best in solid, limited activities where their purpose is clearly delineated. Rarely, if ever, do they try to fudge something which they know they cannot do, nor do they try to give the impression that their work is better than it really is. On the other hand, because they are so self-critical, they may not get enough pleasure from their own accomplishments. January 2 people should be encouraged to take time off from their work, be less serious, and have more fun. And they can usually be prevailed upon to do so by their family and friends. And those who cut themselves off from loved ones, however, may become increasingly isolated with passing years. The danger is that through a minimum of social contact, they may lose touch with reality. The possibility also exists that sociopathic tendencies may manifest which justify their every action, no matter how selfish or antisocial. Thus, it is crucial rather, that January 2 people remain oriented toward keeping their social and human instincts alive and functioning. And those born on this day must not get carried away with their own sense of power. Learning to be relative and to place their ego in relation to the world and the universe is key. And I don't think I've ever heard the word relativate, to place their egos in relation to the world and the universe. So there's a new one for me. That being said, a rather narrowly focused, laser of focus, if you like, idea about the breakdown there. They really kind of zoned in on one particular idea and then expanded from there. So it wasn't exactly a very well-rounded birthday breakdown, but I think they did a pretty good job of examining the different scope, or the narrow, elaborate scope within there. So I think you get the idea, even though I'm mumble-mouthed about it. So let's move on to a little bit of a commentary I'd like to provide here as we get on with the read. So January 2nd, the day of self-requirements. All right, you're serious individuals who put tremendous demands on themselves. At least that's what the reading claims. Both from high standards and healthy insecurity, it said, to prove that you can do something. All right, which is interesting because I wouldn't necessarily think a driver such as that was an insecurity. But it goes to show such things, insecurity or not, can be tools to help fuel our fires. All right. Having said that, the reading claims that you do so in extreme ways, which may show the idea for you may be a kind of detrimental mania, if you like, just your your approach to the work, and kind of in a mania, which could be detrimental to you. All right, even though I said that already. All right, incredible that in that if you push boundaries, risky in that if you risk personal welfare. At least that's what I would assume there. That's why it might be detrimental. But the reading also claims it just works for you, okay? And I like this inclusion that you're the one perpetuating this expectation. Nobody else is asking you to do it. You're the one that's putting your nose to the grindstone. The outside world, they might not even be expecting or driving you to do any of it, all right? And nevertheless, you drive forward and you make excellent team members when you're not realizing your ends alone. And it said you're admirably suited to be creative if you are working alone. And I personally like this mentioned element of the modesty, okay? Though not directly referenced, they said that you're very apt at perfecting what it is that you do or what you're good at, but you don't attempt to cheat or phone in the things that you aren't. And you're not apt to give the impression that you can do something if that's just not the case. Or you also don't give the impression that you can do so if that's not the case. And you don't give the impression that your work might be better than it actually is. All right, so you're just humble. You're modest about things. You're not a phony, is what it sounds like. All right, to which I don't know that a lot of people necessarily are phony. That is, but it's such an understandable character trait and look that we probably pick up on. Just about everybody, even if it's just minor degrees of as much. So if that's not there, I'd say that's something that people probably pick up on, and it's admirable as well. That said, you may be self-critical and you don't take pleasure in your work, surprisingly, and maybe that's part of the humility there. You don't broadcast your excellence because you think it can be done better, all right? And I'd say it's both healthy in certain doses, but detrimental in others. So just take care that you're not bringing yourself down with such things to the point that your work or your welfare suffers from it. Because at that point, I'd argue you're totally off track, all right? The reading suggests being social to stave off losing track with reality, or losing touch, if you like, and avoiding developing sociopathic tendencies, however those might happen to manifest, and keeping your humility alive and functioning, all right? Or your humanity, rather. I'd say both are good, humanity and humility. So I'd say also take some time to live with what you have contributed to society or to just your particular avenue for a little while at least, all right? Take some time to ruminate in what you've done successfully. It's huge. Too often I think we succeed in a lot of places and we don't take the time to appreciate it or just enjoy it for what we did, you know. That being said, that's what I'd say about the breakdown. A little disjointed here and there, but hey, maybe we can pick it up with your numbers and your planets. That's right. Those born on the 2nd of the month are ruled by the number 2 and the moon. And those ruled by the number 2, well, they often make good co-workers as well as partners, rather than leaders, it says. And this quality helps January 2 people in their jobs and relationships. However, moon influences can also act as a brake on individual initiative and action, which produces frustration. And when the moon's effect is combined with Saturn qualities of Capricorn, it can make for a highly successful but lonely individual with deep, complex emotions. And if a number 2 person happens to also be a second child, it says, he or she may be both protected and somewhat neglected. Spared some of the strong emotions directed by the parents toward the firstborn, but also forced to take a subordinate role to the older sibling. Very interesting. So highly personalized numbers and planets for you today, especially with this sibling element to it. They don't often do that, though once in a while it may pop up. That being said, what I have to say about the notes, I might be getting ahead of myself here. The number 2 in the moon for a good partner, co-worker dynamic versus a penchant for leadership and reflective, empathetic human tendencies. But when combined with Saturn, its deep, complex emotions and potential loneliness might pop up. All of which is a quite interesting and quite like the last moon rulership Saturn dynamic that popped up on December 29th. Leadership was something that they usually found themselves just thrown into, right place, right time kind of thing. Even though they were said to better flourish in a supportive capacity as co-workers or partners. Here I would argue you come across very self-sufficient, maybe even overly so, to the extent you might even surpass leadership, if that's even possible, perhaps disappearing into the process, all right, and advance ever forward with no thought as to what's behind you. So leadership might not even be in your mind. You're just going after things, right? That's kind of where I got the idea from. Especially if you make time to be reflective. Just don't get so far out into the bush that you can't work your way back to the supply lines, I would say, to put a little bit of a battle study type element to it. That's assuming you've chosen to lean away from the old co-worker partner dynamic there. That being said, a lot of times these moon days are kind of hard to justify, especially if the breakdown made the person sound like a leader. You know, it's just like, because I think there's so much positive social, just in society, it's like, you're not a leader. And so, that's a big negative connotation on such things. People don't really build up the support partner dynamic. And I would say, it's not the worst thing to not be a leader or have leadership qualities. You might just have the other thing in spades too. And really, a lot of times, who wants leadership? All that extra responsibility. You're not a leader. Hey, good on it. I don't want to be. Maybe so. That being said, that's been your numbers and your planets. So let's dive in to your tarot. That's right. One of the more eclectic of the New Age metaphysical ideologies. But hey, it's here in the book. It's your birthday. Sometimes we can make more connotations with the breakdown, help expand on things, provide a little bit of a context, surprisingly. So let's dive into it. We'll just leave it here in the book after we're done. We'll have to take it home and start dealing out cards to predict our future, however tarot cards are used. So let's get into it. The second card of the major arcana is the Priestess, shown seated on her throne, calm and impenetrable. She is a spiritual woman who reveals hidden forces and secrets, empowering us with that knowledge. Favorable qualities of this card are silence, intuition, reserve, and discretion. Negative values are secretiveness, mistrust, indifference, and inertia. All right. This was a copy paste job for this particular section. Sometimes they'll personalize it, but other times, if they personalize the numbers and planets, the tarot is kind of what gets shortchanged. That said, let's see what I had to say about it. See what kind of connections we can make here. The Priestess, who reveals hidden secrets and empowers us with that knowledge. For silence, intuition, reserve, and discretion as positives, and indifference, mistrust, and inertia is negative. Just a little retread so you know where we're at. I would say that this card seems particularly apt if we take into account all the life experience that you probably drum up with your constant pursuits. Now, that might be lacking in the social realm, who's to say, but especially if you're one of those folks who kind of just disappears into their own world. But that doesn't mean you don't have things to impart on other people. That said, I may be hard-pressed to think that you'd make the time to impart that knowledge, however, all right? And I'd say that because it's purported that you're so enmeshed in your work that you don't have time for other things. And if that happens to be the case, I could see how you wouldn't make time to, I don't know, educate other people about things or share your depth of knowledge, all right? That's just for you, maybe. I don't know, who's to say, but that's the idea I got from it. What else do we have here? Inertia, too, sounds like something either you don't have to worry about because you're so busy with the work, or it might just be deadly for someone who's so much like a shark, who in species-specific cases will die if they stop swimming. That's right. Inertia being the thing where it's like you need a little bit of a push to get that weight to get going, right? Because if you sit down, you're not going to get back up without some outside forces there. So you got to keep moving to keep it rolling. What else do I have to say here? So beware of that as well as indifference, okay? You don't want to remove yourself from life so far that you stop caring about things, all right? Except maybe just your work. Again, that's if the breakdown applies, but, you know, things to be mindful of. And like I said, I think the card is apt because the warnings and the things that it's mentioned as positive and negatives, I could see totally applying to you. Again, that's if the breakdown applies. That being said, that's what I had to relate about the tarot. So let's move on to your health. That's right, your health. Here we go. Those born on January 2 often keep their private fears and worries to themselves, including concerns about their health. Tending to suffer from chronic rather than acute disorders, they should take special care with those parts of their body that need regular maintenance. To say their teeth, hair, muscles, and bones particularly. And because of their workaholic tendencies, they must program regular vacations on which they forbid themselves to work. Their diets and physical activities should emphasize fun aspects of life. January 2 people can benefit immeasurably from regular doses of joy, which perks them up and keeps them from falling into a lethargic or apathetic state. All right. Hey, I would say this particular health entry had a lot of value to it. Again, assuming the breakdown applies. All right, let's see what I'd say here. Private fears and worries that you keep to yourself, all right? And reserve and discretion from the tarot, I would say, kind of pops up here. And as I was writing the notes, I really wanted to make mention of the reserve and discretion, but I didn't do it. I just was like, we don't need to. And I didn't. And it's interesting they brought it up here. I should have went with my first instinct and went off on it. That being said, it would help bolster the case that the card really applies there. So don't keep your health to yourself, it sounds like, all right? Also an emphasis on carving out the time to have some kind of cathartic release, be it fun or something enjoyable to do. But they did drill down on fun specifically and joy being a benefit to your life. So something other than your work, because I'm sure you get some kind of joy out of your work if you're always doing it to such a high and focused degree. They also mentions a fun diet and exercise, ostensibly because you don't put stock in as much, all right? At least that's what I'm left to assume. Kind of a weird entry, but help fight off those negatives of indifference and inertia, especially when coupled with taking a break. That's right. But that being said, I would think that maybe you run the risk of not being able to get started again if you take a break. So be mindful of that, all right? But don't let that be something that intimidates you from doing as much, I would say. All right, so there's your health. Let's move on to some advice. All right, I think we've given quite a bit here, but let's see what they have to say. Sometimes they just retread something and put it in a more accessible, maybe valuable way of hearing as much. So above all, do not cut yourself off from the world, and let sorrows and burdens go. And don't sign for problems. Return them to sender. Insist that others serve you as well, and don't deny yourself the very best and most pleasurable experiences that life has to offer. All right, a little bit of a retread, but I'd say they brought some value, things you probably needed to hear more than one time. All right, what do I have to say about your advice? I had to write it in the book because I ran out of space on the page. All right. Don't cut yourself off, they said, all right? Even if that just means getting too far ahead of the supply lines, work-wise, I would say, all right? Even though I'm sure they mean for you to expand socially, and outside of what I had to say there. Let's see, let your sorrows and your burdens go, all right? You have enough things to worry about, I'm assuming, and enough things that you're efforting towards. So resolve what distracts and holds you back, I would say. Don't sign for problems. You know, that may be tempting for you because you know what you can do, what you can produce, and what you're good at, even if you don't admit as much. But you don't need the extra baggage, I'm assuming, is kind of why they're relating this. You may already be working off or trying to work off the things you already have on your shoulders there. So yeah, don't take on the other stuff if you can help it, I would say. And it's also said, don't deny yourself pleasure, all right? You've worked hard for it. Am I right? And I would think so based on the breakdown. So take some time to enjoy the fruits of your labor. That's right. Don't forget to do that. Or else what was the point of doing it all? All right. So that's been your advice. Let's move on to your meditation. That's right. You get a little bit of a meditation for your birthday. All right. The relative weight of difficulties is largely a function of our own perception. All right, loaded there. Let's do it one more time here for you. The relative weight of difficulties is largely a function of our own perception. Okay, I don't know what to make of that for you, but hey, you know what? It's not my birthday. It's not my meditation. It's just for you. And even if it was, hey, you know what? I'd keep it to myself. That's right. It wouldn't do you any good if I told you what it was about or what it meant to me. So once again, that's just for you. That being said, your meditation in the can, as it were. Let's move on to your strengths and your weaknesses. That's right. Let's hold up the objective mirror and see where you've got the bulk and maybe where you're a little more atrophied. That's right. Your strengths and weaknesses. Your strengths, you're responsible, you're profound, and you're dedicated. All right, you know what? I think we picked up on that from the breakdown there. But your weaknesses, let's hold up the objective mirror, but flip it to the side that blows up your face. Shows off all the things you might be a little insecure about. That's right, your weaknesses. Here we go. You're a workaholic, you're self-inhibiting, and you're over-demanding. Oh, you know what? I didn't pick up on over-demanding. Self-inhibiting and workaholic, yeah, I got those from the breakdown, I would say. You know, a lot of times I like to say our strengths are going to help us get over our weaknesses, if they're weaknesses at all. Sometimes they trade back and forth. I remember seeing impulsive jump between strength and weakness on occasion there. But that being said, I also like to argue that sometimes our weaknesses are strengths. It just depends on the situation. You know what? I would say workaholic is something you need to be sometimes, or it would be beneficial on occasion. Self-inhibiting, hey, you know what? If you overextend yourself too much, you know what? Maybe bringing ourselves back a little bit is just what we need. Over-demanding, I don't know. Sometimes some people need that, especially if you got employees who need the whip cracked in order for them to be productive. I don't know. But like I think the point still stands. Sometimes our weaknesses can be strengths. But if those are things you need to bring back a little bit, I would argue your strengths are going to help you do it. All right, you're responsible, profound, and dedicated. You're going to come up with some interesting ideas to help yourself rectify these weaknesses, and you're dedicated to doing as much. You're going to get it done. And you're responsible, I would say, and you're responsible for making sure that happens. All right. But I also like to say, don't get rid of your weaknesses altogether. All right, because they make us who we are. That's right. That being said, those have been your strengths and your weaknesses. So let's move on to those born on this day. And when we get into those born on this day, not only do we get to see who shares your company, but something I like to do is use it as a way to focus and kind of drill down on the idea of figuring out our passions. Because too often in life, we get out and meet people and ask them what they do, and more importantly, if they like it. And a lot of times they don't. And I think it's important that we have something that we're focused on, or a purpose, if you like, to get out of bed in the morning, get on with our lives, and find something fulfilling about what we're doing with the time we have here, right? And sometimes we just don't have that because we got to get out of school, get a job, make the ends meet. And the fundamental flaw there is it's something we don't like doing. And maybe we get trapped in it, climbing that corporate ladder. And because it's easy, we roll out of bed, we know the commute like the back of our hand, and basically put the blinders on, get right to it. And you know what, that's fine. But I would say, hey, life should be fulfilling, and we should be eager to get on with our day, right? And not just punching the clock because we got to make the ends meet. So I think this is the perfect opportunity to not only see who shares your company, but maybe take some inspiration from what they did to get in the book. Help us fuel our own fires, right? Find something fulfilling. Yeah, maybe you already have a passion, and if that's the case, I tip the hat I'm not wearing to you. That's right. So maybe you just find it interesting to see who shares your company. But let's dive into it, all right? We have Thérèse de Lisieux, a French 19th century saint, a little flower, it says, who suffered from tuberculosis and had visions of Jesus, and he wrote an autobiography, it says, The Story of a Soul. We also have Isaac Asimov, a Russian-born American scientist and writer of popular science and science fiction, and is responsible for the Foundation trilogy and wrote over 500 books. And in the last year of life, a book a week, it says. Interesting. Quite prolific there. We also have Renata Tebaldi, an Italian opera singer and a soprano diva. We have Jim Baker, a Bakker, a Pentecostal televangelist and founder of the PTL, which stands for Praise the Lord Ministries. And it says he was defrocked after Jessica Hahn scandal. No idea what that is, but it sounds interesting. All right. We also have William J. Crowe, U.S. Admiral and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Leon Leonidoff, a Radio City Music Hall producer. We also have David Bailey, a British Society photographer. Jose Ferran, a Spanish ballet dancer. We also have Louis C. Berguet, a gyroplane inventor, and Air France founder. We also have James Wolfe, a British Army commander and hero of Quebec battle, and died at the age of 33. We also have George Blanc, a French chef, writer, business executive, and responsible for La Mière Blanc, a restaurant or a book, not sure. Toshiki Kaifu, a Japanese prime minister. Yuri Grigorovich, it says Kirov, Bolshoi, theater ballet master. And the Russian words sometimes. We have Vera Zorina, a ballet dancer. A lot of dancers today. Interesting. Dan Rostenkowski, a U.S. congressman of Illinois. It says House Ways and Means Committee chairman. We also have Gino Marchetti, a football defensive end, 8-time All-Pro Hall of Famer. We also have Daisaku Ikeda, Japanese educator, a Buddhist leader, and responsible for Buddhism and the cosmos. We also have Robert Smithson, an artist, one of my favorite earth workers there. Also have Peter Young, minimalist artist, and Mily Balakirev, a Russian composer. And if you've ever been to Utah, the old Salt Lake, go check out the Spiral Jetty. That is one of Robert Smithson's most famous works. And if you're up for a little bit of a drive, I think it was about 3 hours, you can go see his wife's work, Sun Tunnels. It's kind of near the border of Utah and was it Nevada there. And you know what? As hard up as I was to see the Spiral Jetty, I think I found Sun Tunnels to be that much more interesting. I don't know why. It was maybe because I was all alone out there. And when I was out there at the Spiral Jetty, I thought I'd be alone. And then there was a school bus full of kids that pulled up. But you know what? Both were valuable. So if you have the time, go check them out. Nancy Holt was his wife, responsible for Sun Tunnels. But I digress. It's your birthday, so that's what's important here. But that being said, that essentially rounds out your birthday read. Except to say, the season is winter, your sign is Capricorn of the Capricorn I period specifically, and your quality and element is Cardinal Earth. That being said, I know it's probably a big-ass hard sell to take inspiration from someone else's life and what they accomplished. But you know what? Maybe me just putting the bug in your ear about it help you stir up the fires of inspiration. Get on track to put in the time or put into work to carve out the time to figure that out. Because it takes work, it takes time to figure out our passions in a lot of cases. That being said, I mumble-mouthed a bunch of those names. It's not done in malice. It's just hooked on phonics. Doesn't often work for me with Russian names and Japanese names and Polish and French. So they had quite a few of those in there today, let me tell you. But in any event, this has been January 2nd, the day of self-requirement, from The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and Used Elfers. I have the link for this book down in the description. It makes a great coffee table book, especially if you're someone who needs to extend out a little bit of that social favor, get people to come in. It helps break the ice. I'm telling you what, it's going to get the conversation started for better or for worse as you dive in and read people's birthdays for them. Whether they agree or disagree, hey, you know what? That's not necessarily up to them. All right, it might be up to the person who's sitting there next to them and who knows them, because it's hard to be objective when you start hearing things like their, principles, right? That being said, book having been related, that's not exactly what's important here. What's important here, like I said at the top, wishing you a happy birthday. All right. But for everybody else who joined us, hey, I hope you enjoyed yourselves, took something from it, and we see you for your birthday read. That's right. Lest I forget, that's right, your daily numbers. Your 6 and your 6 for a 12. Get out there, see, taste, touch, smell, all of the magic you can, all right? Take those blinders off and just see what the universe has in store for you. Because if there's anything I can wish for on your birthday, aside from figuring out your passions, it's that you get out there, have some fun, taste a little bit of magic, or smell, hear, whatever it is. Intuit some of the magic, because you know what? It sounds like you know, in comparison to a lot of the folks, need to have some fun. That's right. So there's just one more way of doing as much. But at the very least, you know what, you're exercising, getting those blinders off, and soaking in everything around you. All right? So once again, happy birthday, and take care of yourselves, all right? And hey, don't work too hard, because I know I don't have to tell you that because you're going to get out there and work hard regardless, it sounds like. So yeah, have some fun, find the joy. Take care of yourselves.